We'll move on to 6B, which is a presentation on the school referendum.
Hello, I'm Karsten Anderson, Superintendent of Red Wing Public Schools. Thank you for the invitation tonight to discuss the upcoming operating levy referendum on November 6th. The school board just made a decision a week ago, and I had 2 days to prepare materials for tonight's meeting. So some of this is preliminary, and we'll be making adjustments as we go, but I'm thrilled to be able to discuss our needs and our proposed solutions. Once again, I'm Karsten Anderson. I just finished my 7th year as the superintendent here in Red Wing. I live up by Mayo Hospital. I went to the baseball games when we made it a state. It was a great night at the ballpark. And clearly, as Paul Hartman said, we're grateful for the use of city facilities and everything you do for the constituents here in Red Wing. I've also golfed, not so well, at Mississippi National, but that's also a great amenity as well. We have a vote on November 6th that will in large part determine what's going to happen in our school district and community for the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm here to give you just a quick synopsis of information about the operating levy. First of all, I do have some of these one-page handouts of the strategic plan. I believe they're in your council packet. And then I left some out at the table out front. I'm not going to go over this in detail, but it does describe our educational plan, including some strategic directions about where we want to go as a school district. Those 5 primary points are listed on the PowerPoint presentation. I won't go into any details until a little bit later in the presentation when I'll highlight a few items. Over the past 9 months or so, the school board has conducted what I would consider a very thorough process for making decisions about the referendum. After the failure last November, we regrouped. We conducted numerous interviews and focus groups with people throughout the school district. We finalized our educational plan. We reviewed our long-term financial projections like we do every year. We conducted a random community survey of 350 residents, and we've discussed the issues at numerous committee and board meetings. As I said earlier, the decision was made on June 18th. We've really followed a good, strong process this time as we've analyzed our needs and determined where we want to go as a school district. Here are the nuts and bolts of the referendum request. Question 1 would be to increase funding by just over $688 per student. By the way, one reason we're going out now is that our current funding level for operating levy expires at the end of next year. So we need to pass something this coming November. Otherwise, we have a significant shortfall in money to run our schools. So part of this is a renewal of our existing levy authority, but then we are asking for an increase from voters as well. Another note that out of the $688, $300 of that amount has already been approved by the school board, but we want to be as transparent and forthright as possible, so we are indicating that we are requesting an overall increase of $688 in the first question. Question 2 would be to increase funding by an additional $450 over that first question amount. Some of the feedback we heard from constituents is that they wanted a shorter term levy. Last time we asked for a 10-year levy. This year we decided, I think appropriately, to request funds for 5 years. And then finally, also based on the feedback that we've heard, we are not including an inflationary factor in our referendum requests. 10 years ago, when we passed an operating levy, we did not include it. When we renewed that just a few years ago, once again, we did not increase it or include an inflationary factor in those requests. And because we've had that same level of funding, that is a large part of the reason that we're looking for an increase in the overall funding. But once again, we are not including an inflationary factor in our request. Also, as part of the board pack or the council packet, there is a 2-page summary of the impact of the different questions on school district operations. And this is a really important part, so I'll spend just a couple minutes if I have the time to go over that. First of all, what's going to happen if question 1 does not pass? Right now, our preliminary plan indicates that we would need to reduce over 20 teaching and administrative positions next spring for the following year. We'd also be eliminating our media specialist and paraprofessional positions, so we'd essentially be closing our media centers. The impact, of course, would be larger class sizes. Perhaps even just as important, there would be significantly fewer elective courses that our kids could take. And that's really an important point because if we have to go to a 6-period day, which is the cheapest schedule, each student would take 6 classes a day: math, science, English, social studies, some years health and PE, and then we have some other requirements. That would leave those kids in those years just one other course to take. Might be a world language, might be band or choir, it could be industrial tech or vocational classes, might be family and consumer science. You know, they would be limited to one choice, you know, on a daily basis. So it significantly impact some of the best programs that we have in our district. Other changes is that we would likely need to reduce some academic and behavioral support that we currently have, including guidance counselors. We would likely need to consider discontinuing our safety or resource officer that we contract with you on a yearly basis. Right now, discussions would include closing the swimming pool in order to save operational expenses, eliminate the 2 swimming teams as well as 4 to 6 other sports, and eliminate about 1/2 of our academic extracurricular programs. And finally, we would need to seriously consider closing Tower View Alternative Learning Center, which is a program that serves about 40 kids from Red Wing who have chosen an alternative setting instead of the high school to finish their high school careers. We would need to consider moving our preschool programming out of Colville so that we could save on utility expenses and other upkeep with the Colville building by closing it. And then we would also need to strongly consider having a 2-mile walking zone for all kids. You know, right now we have lower walking zones, so we provide bus transportation for those kids. But we'd really need to go to a 2-mile radius for transportation. And finally, we'd need to consider cleaning our classrooms once every 2 days instead of our regular daily schedule. So I hate going over that because I'm not a gloom and doom person. But at the same time, we had a lot of feedback after the last referendum that people didn't know the consequences of voting yes or no. And so, you know, we've made a commitment to be open and honest with all the ramifications of the referendum in November. So that would be if question 1 does not pass. If only question 1 passes, we believe that we'll have enough funding to maintain most of our current programming for the next 5 years. Now, I say most of our programming. Everything is based on assumptions as far as how much extra money we'll get from the state and those kinds of things. So, you know, it can vary from year to year, but that would be our plan. As always, we are committed to continually looking for efficiencies in our operations. We understand that we will need to do right sizing as our district continues to experience declining enrollment. You know, we can make those difficult decisions. No doubt about that. But if question 1 passes, we'll have significantly fewer reductions to make on a yearly basis. If questions 1 and 2 both pass, We will be focusing on our educational plan, the one-page summary, and we'll be doing some really good things for our kids, school district, and community. So for example, with college and career readiness, we will be able to implement more hands-on and problem-solving learning activities. We'll be able to focus on STEAM programming. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Once again, definitely important for our workers of tomorrow. We'll also be adding curriculum and courses relevant to career pathways, including those that lead to industry certifications like welding, certified nursing assistant program, those kinds of things. Actual certifications that will lead to good immediate jobs in the near future. And also to credits in technical college. So we want to work with our Minnesota State College Southeast on expanding our programming there. You can also see some of the other estimated financial items if both questions 1 and 2 pass. Again, our commitment is to our community. We want to provide potential workers for the businesses who are looking for well-trained, highly qualified workers so that they can further train them and give them great careers. If it's during high school, if it's after high school, or even after they go to college. We believe that these hands-on, career-focused activities are good for everyone, including people like me who went to a 4-year college. I would have been much better prepared for life if I could have had a program like this. So those are the real quick summaries of the impact of the different questions. Here's the next important part, tax impact. And we've looked at this very carefully. I noted earlier that we've already approved the $300 board levy, and that will cost the owner of a $150,000 home just under $49 per year. Not per month, as some people are suggesting. This is per year. In addition to that, if question 1 passes, there would be a tax impact of $72 per year for the owner of a $150,000 home. And then if question 2 passes, there would be an additional $78 per year. A couple quick things. If you know people who own ag land, there's good news. Unlike a building referendum, the tax impact for an operating levy is based on the house and 1 acre. It's not based on their entire acreage. It's based on that smaller portion. That's an important message for us to get out. Once again, property tax calculator will be on our website as soon as it becomes available. I know they're working on it, so I would imagine that by the July 4th holiday, we'll have that on our website, or at least available. These are our promises to the community. We will provide fair and factual information. We want to share as much information as possible with our community members. We'll be very clear about what will happen if it does and does not pass. We'll do our best to answer questions, and most important, we want everyone to vote. If they vote yes or if they vote no, we want people to participate in the democratic process. And as a reminder, we will not use district resources for advocacy of the positions. We provide the information, the community can decide. There may be vote yes groups, there may be vote no groups, but we will not be spending district resources on those efforts. And then finally, here's my contact information. If there are questions about the referendum or really any school-related issue, I will either answer them myself or I will find the person who can answer them for you. Feel free to give me a call or email me at any time. I know I've gone way over my limit, Kay, and I apologize for that. I don't know if there's time for questions or not.
Any of you have questions?
I don't.
All right.
I would love the opportunity to come back at a later time if there are more questions and as we develop more information. And once again, I thank you for the opportunity to begin sharing our story.
Thank you, Karsten.